Okay. And we're back. Hello. The camera's off there. Sorry about that. All right. So a little late. Sorry about that, but the holiday schedule is got me all shifted off. So hope everyone is getting ready in this run up to the days. I'm sure that's fun. So I just came off of the weekend seeing new Star Wars film. Yeah, so Sunday I saw The Last Jedi, and yeah, wow. I don't know. I'm feeling mighty old after all that nonsense. I don't quite know what to make of that, and I don't know why they would hand over a property they paid, $4 billion to a guy. It's in a couple of films, and he would be responsible for kind of, ending the old era and ushering in the new era. That was pretty bad. Yeah. So I was very, very disappointed in the whole thing. I'm not sure what they were going for, but yeah, if they wanted to clear out all those old fans, then mission accomplished, because I have no interest in seeing anything else Star Wars. That they're going to go onto television or do any of these kind of in between these off year major not non-major films like Rogue One was. Yeah, I'm done supporting all that. That was pretty terrible. I just couldn't quite understand what all that was about. I mean, I don't know what the director's exact intentions were, but I don't think that was the way to do it, and I don't think Star Wars was the property to play around so much with those characters, and yeah, just kind of give everybody a strange, uncomfortable feeling, which it doesn't seem to be universal. Wow. I think a lot of people enjoyed the wackiness of it, and they don't have much of a connection to any of those old characters, so they really don't care how they get them out of the way. And yeah, that was not enjoyable. That was not fun to watch, and yeah, very long-winded, and I couldn't really understand why they spent so much time doing what they did. Like the story itself, the events of the film were quite short, were quite compact. It was just a day or so in total, because they set this ticking clock of 18 hours very early on before they started their little B plot there. And that was the timeline of the film was quite short, but it would just went on, and I guess they wanted that extra time to do the Luke exit and all of that. But yeah, so if you haven't seen it, I don't know if I would even recommend it. I don't think it's worth it, honestly. It's a slog to get through, and there's nothing rewarding. I noticed that was the first thing I noticed watching Rogue One. That was the first Star Wars movie where I kind of looked at my watch and I said, okay, are we done with this? I don't really care what's happening with these characters in this story anymore. And because Force Awakens was so new, it was a return to that more original universe. I guess I was much more distracted, but this time, yeah, there was just too much I don't care about this, what's going on, or just really disgusted with how things were handled. I mean, a lot of the the choices for how characters interacted and the things they did was really jarring. It was very odd. So it's just a I don't know. I really think the people creatively working on this were kind of one step removed, uh, and didn't even seem like they were paying attention to The Force Awakens, so that these movies kind of, had some relationship. I mean, the only thing that was similar is actors carried over between the two films, but characters felt different and weren't handled very well. And yeah, it was not enjoyable, and it really gave me a sickening feeling about the direction they're going. I mean, so when has Star Wars movie ever had a villain problem? Star Wars has always had good villains, and now we're going to move into this this weird time where they've got weak, unconvincing, odd villains that aren't scaring anybody, that they're constantly, going to be undermining, or they're going to be some, just some real odd weakness with those characters. I have no idea why they handled it the way that they did. It was odd. It was really odd. And I think, especially for these first three, they needed to kind of establish what the events were going to be, how they were going to do things. And of course, there's economics and, actor deaths and things that happen that change a lot of their maybe intended story arcs and things. But, yeah, I don't understand what that was. And, yeah, it's very strange because, of course, critically, Disney films, get very positive, much more positive. They're points above what they deserve to get because of how Disney handles people that give them bad reviews. So if you want to keep getting on the list for those advanced screenings, you better be nice, and if you're gonna criticize something, it better be gentle. So yeah, I think it's a weird situation. And as they buy more and more properties, I mean, it would be suicide for a critic or a newspaper or a blog or anything to be critical of Disney, because think of all the properties then that you would be cut off from and unable to review, unable to criticize. It's just crazy. I mean, I don't know why we're in this weird situation, but how it is. So the movie was not good. There was some, a few, and I think even maybe less than Force Awakens. Visually, some nice scenes, some odd choices for kind of set pieces and how things were staged. There was, some kind of oddness there, but yeah, it just seems like they're really shooting themselves in the foot by paying attention, obviously kind of paying attention to internet criticism and like how fans reacted to things from the first film, and making some changes because of that in the second film. And then just, totally derailing the whole speculation, kind of atmosphere that had been established by that film. Like, who, what characters, who are certain characters, where did they come from, what's their origin, how are they connected to the story? And the answer was, it doesn't matter, not really at all, and nothing. And it was just very very strange. I think that's got to be disappointing to a lot of people that are hoping to kind of have this mystery and kind of build these answers, maybe if you didn't even get them all at once, or just kind of have some things kind of make sense and be put together a little bit. And there was really no effort to do any of that. And I don't think they even explained very well. I mean, even the mysteries of what happened to Luke's academy, his little training, his little Jedi order he was setting up. not really a good explanation for why that went sideways, and it was just very, very odd, very, very strangely done. It seems like in Star Wars films, you know, you want to be as simple as possible. I didn't think that, you know, it would have been that difficult for somebody to understand that, you know, Star Wars needs to be good guys versus bad guys. And ever since Rogue One, they've been introducing this you know, morally gray, you know, and infighting amongst both sides. So, you know, that was fun to in the original films to see with the Empire. You know, that's always, you know, a big, powerful group of people, and if there's, you know, someone at the top, there are always people, you know, trying to claw their way, you know, into positions of power, or to, you know, try to benefit as much as possible for that. But you wouldn't think in a, a situation like a rebellion or a resistance or whatever, if so much infighting and so much sabotaging each other, and just very, very odd that they would bother, you know, wasting our time with stories that were told like that. That just, it's not interesting at all, and it doesn't give you emotionally kind of anywhere to go with some of these, you know, ideas and characters. You just really don't care at a certain point. I mean, it's very, very quickly you're just like, okay, well, this isn't going to get sorted out, and I don't really care, you know, what they're trying to do here. They're just odd, really odd choices, and I don't like the you know, introduction of characters to just serve these really kind of odd, obvious roles, and then they're sacrificed, you know, by the end of the film. Very odd. But yeah, no more of that. I don't have any interest at all in watching any more of those films, if that's how they're gonna they're gonna run this thing, and they're not gonna be, you know, very respectful of you know, kind of original stories, and just get the tone completely wrong. It's just, I think that's the worst part of it, is from the very beginning you're like, what's going on? Why is this so jokey, and why are these characters, you know, especially the main First Order leader, the general or whatever, was super over the top and had these great dark circles under his eyes, you know, like he was undead, and I don't know, it was weird. I mean, he was such a, like, a Hitler figure in Force Awakens, and then they just turned him into this, like, weird comic relief, this incompetent, sniveling underling by the next film. Very strange. So I have no idea what that was about at all. Just very odd, and the directions they took, kind of the characters that they set up in the what am I talking about, in part 7, Force Awakens. They just kind of threw all that away. Anything you were curious about, or anything that might have been fun about any of those characters, who cares now at this point? Yeah, it's very funny they would do that. But I guess they're going for a new generation of fans, which I don't know who in the world those fans would be, because who wants to watch that? I'm gonna think how I want to do this here. It definitely has to be bigger. Those ice cubes. Yeah, but a very yeah, very unpleasant movie going experience. I don't know why they couldn't keep it simpler and more respectful. Like, if you saw the trailers, the tone of the trailers, you know, seemed to match what they had already established. The film itself just didn't. It just was got a little wacky, and yeah. Oh, those are exactly the same. I don't know what they were going for with any of that, but no thanks. And that's really sad, because that's the first time I've really felt like that, because I'm not difficult to please, and my summer movie taste, the holiday and summer movie, very simple blockbuster style movie. They don't have high expectations, and just want to feel some competency, and want to feel like people know where they're going with things, and they're gonna handle things in an interesting way. Didn't get that feeling at all. Just felt very very like a lot of nonsense and very out of control. So I think I'm gonna be subjecting myself to that anymore. That's just crazy. So, and people are making, I think I'm gonna do a little shadows, some shadows first. People seem to be making, just reading articles, people talking about the film, they're making very strange excuses, and it's kind of that thing that they were doing with Batman versus Superman and the DC films, is just saying, well, if you didn't like this, then it's just too smart for you. And so they're doing a little bit of that. If you didn't like it, you just didn't understand it. And that was the feeling that I got with the prequel Star Wars films, that I must be missing something here, because I didn't enjoy these at all. And then after some time, you realize, yeah, that they're just not good films. There's nothing changed with you. They just are terrible films. But after this, I wouldn't mind seeing a fourth prequel film, as terrible as they are, because at least there was some honesty, or you could feel the you could feel the director's kind of honest intent to do something new or do something interesting. And it was his original idea. I think handing it off to people with these big ideas about where they're going to take the characters is just a mistake. I don't know. Understand who would have enjoyed any of that. Who knows? Yeah, I think it's I don't want everything to. Well, I'm putting another color in there for whatever came out of the glass. We'll see. Yeah, so maybe red. Another one to use. Yeah, so that was a strange experience. I didn't, especially around this happy time of seasonal depression and things. I didn't need to see such a poorly handled, depressing ending to that particular storyline. Just really puzzling why it was done the way that it was. And yeah, the guy I went with made an interesting point that it didn't seem like they had even screened or tested. They didn't test this with an audience before they released it. They were just so sure of what they were doing, because yeah, it's strange. And that was kind of the first film that didn't end with a high note where the audience was applauding. The audience wasn't applauding afterwards. I think at the end of every Star Wars film, even the prequels, people applauded once the directed by George Lucas or whatever, came up. I think even, no, I can't remember with Force Awakens, but yeah, people were just, okay, what was that? The reaction was very, after they saw that. So, I don't know. So I was going to, maybe I'll just together. Gonna do a splash on a wall, but maybe I'm not gonna do that because I'm not sure how I can get that to read so well. Yeah, but a bit depressing. Yeah, that looks okay. Some drops. Okay, maybe. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people ranting their opinions, and just like everything else, it's got to be political. If you didn't like it, there's political reasons, and if you did like it, there's political reasons, and it's just silly. I mean, the politics of Star Wars have always been garbage because it was a return to a simpler time. The 70s anti-hero and all of these things. It was a departure. It's not gonna work. It was a departure from that to a simpler, black and white, good guys, bad guys kind of thing that worked well with the late 70s and what we were led up to, what was happening by the 80s. And yeah, so I don't think that was handled particularly well. Don't understand who that was for, because it feels like that any internet following that they had, they've betrayed that. They've alienated the older fans of that franchise, and no idea of doing that was. And if they were doing, if they did want to do that kind of a reset, by introducing the new characters, obviously that was, a lot of the intention, starting with Force Awakens, but they should have started introducing that a lot more, beyond the death of Han Solo thing. But yeah, because it was just, I guess I should have just paid attention. I should have read some advanced reviews and just spared myself the discomfort of sit through that, because I didn't read any reviews, or I wanted to go in kind of blank and kind of try to enjoy it fresh, and there's no point in doing that. That was I think that was a bit of a mistake to not be paying attention, because it was a difficult haul. That was, oh hey, everything's red. That was quite a long haul to get through, and kind of pointless. But yeah, so my hopes of ever getting my youngest daughter interested in Star Wars are completely dashed. I don't think there's anything there for anybody. And it was so strange, the end of Last Jedi reminded me of, I think it was a commercial that EA did. I forget who it was. I think it was Electronic Arts did when Disney bought Lucasfilm, and they awarded the license for Star Wars games to EA. I think they did a promotional film about, okay, here we go, you know, Star Wars games are coming, and remember all those old feelings you had as a kid. And there was like a guy with a little, you know, R2D2 figure on his desk at work, and it was all, the sticker was coming off and everything. They were just kind of trying to get people excited. I think that was for games. I forget what exactly that was for. But the ending of Last Jedi with the new little toddler, the Resistance toddlers, was pretty corny like that. It had that same feeling, that it was just like a promotional film, a promotional ad for, you know, you like Star Wars, and here's a new generation. You can't just say, you know, there's there's going to be a new generation of these characters and people. You really have to, you know, kind of earn that whole, you know, a reason for, you know, people to kind of keep following, and they just didn't do it. Okay, so one of the things that people were complimenting the director about was it inverting? Very subverting, I guess, subverting tropes. So there were, you know, the hero and the chosen one, you know, the sorts of things that a lot of, you know, science fiction films and fantasy films have set up. A lot of those tropes were subverted in this film, and wow, how amazing. And it's just the absolutely wrong place to be doing that. So yeah, so my little joke here was about subverted tropes. So of course the trope of the refreshing beverage was subverted. So he's wondering if he was a subverted trope, or was just a simple accident. Yeah, so just a lot of weird excuse making, and I think, you know, because people have a weird investment. Like people, it's so strange nowadays how people are tied to things, and how they're invested on this weird personal level. That means if something is bad, or somebody's critical of something, it's a personal attack, and you're like, that, you know, how dare you? People have that sort of reaction to, oh, you like that movie? I thought that was a terrible movie. Oh my God, you're attacking my very core, the very core of my being, by insulting my my favorite film this month. But yeah, so I felt that strangeness in how people respond. And I guess the other thing that I wanted to talk about that is part of the time we're living in is you have these reactions to things, you know, like things on the news or things in pop culture, on TV or film, and people don't want to think independently anymore, and they're just reacting, and so they're not going to question their reaction and think very much about, you know, why do I feel that way about this, or why did this have such an effect on me, you know, what is it about me that it, you know, caused that. So they don't question that. There's no self-analysis or any introspection. It's just, oh my God, I had this reaction to this, and now I have to, you know, get on social media, get on the internet, and find out who else has this reaction. Who are my allies? Like, you know, am I justified in having this response? But the way that you figure that out is you just look for other people that agree with you, and it's a very odd state of affairs where that's what people do. And I think that's kind of considered a you know, kind of normal reaction to things now, is just you know, finding people on YouTube or Twitter or whatever that, oh, okay, well, they agree with me, so I'm not crazy. I guess it's okay that I had this, and not wondering if you know, there's something odd in your childhood or your psychology that's making you, you know, obsess about this thing, or focus on this certain detail, or react so strongly to certain things in the world around you, and just you get total justification for having any kind of extreme reaction if you can find somebody else that had that same reaction. And that's odd. That's a really odd thing we're in now, where people just react to things on this emotional level, and then they, form sides, based on it, based on, whatever the topic or the situation is, how afraid they are of foreign people, or how much they hate the opposite sex, or, everything is based on these like weird, beliefs that are kind of making decisions for them that they're not even aware of. But as long as they can find people that agree with them, then they feel justified to have that reaction, to have that opinion. So they wondered if no, I might have to shorten this. They had subverted the trope of being a refreshing beverage. Subverted tropes. Yeah, all this like nonsense, film theory vocabulary comes out when people are trying to justify, strange choices in movies. They wondered if they'd subverted. Oh, and they have a little C in there. Subverted the trope of being a refreshing beverage. Yeah, I think that's as good as I'm going to do with that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, just really disappointing. I just don't like when. I think the most satisfying thing in a film, or, any kind of storytelling, television or radio plays or novels or anything, any kind of narrative medium, I think the most satisfying part of that is feeling the competence and the ability of the writer, or the people that made that particular thing, and trusting them, and allowing them to take you on this journey where they're misdirecting you and surprising you with interesting things, kind of setting up a character and redeeming them in an interesting way, or making complicated villains that you have some sympathy for, but they have this inevitable failing. Yeah, I think there's if it's really, that's a really great part of narrative work. And when you don't feel that, when things just feel like you're just puzzled by the decisions, puzzled by the choices, and just don't feel any competence, it just feels very, very random and not well structured and not well thought out. It's just frustrating, and it just chases you away from those experiences. And yeah, I definitely had that feeling. That last Star Wars movie, I don't think there was, I mean, technically there was all kinds of competence, especially there were a couple of just beautiful shots. I think fewer shots, fewer visually well designed shots than Force Awakens, but there were some really beautiful images on the screen. And so the people that technically made the film had a lot of competency. But I think that people writing and acting and it just you don't feel, you just don't feel very assured by their ability. It was a very puzzling thing. Yeah, and there were certain scenes too where I'm listening to the dialogue and I'm kind of rewriting it in my head as people are saying it. It's like, why did they say that way? It's so odd. You don't understand why things felt so off balance, and really odd choices based on I guess people's interpretations of, you know, characters' behavior in previous movies or whatever. It's just really, really frightening. I think I just did this, but let me do it. And check my spelling. I'm glad Photoshop has that ability, and I was in a job where I was doing internet banner ads and advertisements, and the art director was very, always, check your spelling, and I didn't know that Photoshop had that built in already at that time. And I thought my spelling was pretty good, and I handed him an ad with against spelled with an I, an extra I, and he freaked out. This is why I tell you to check your spelling. I mean, that was the first, last, and only spelling error I made at that job, but that's so funny. So that made me a little bit more paranoid about maybe my spelling isn't as good as I thought it was. Yeah, that was very funny. So especially with my comics, I'm a lot more paranoid. But it's funny now because we have easy access to spell check, and we're getting autocorrect. Our text and everything, text messages and everything get auto-corrected all the time. So spelling isn't much of a problem anymore, but grammar and correct word usage and vocabulary is a thing. So people don't spell anything wrong anymore, but they're using the wrong words all the time. The incorrect word choice and strange grammar and stuff. So I'm not getting any better at using English, but at least everything is spelled correctly. So it doesn't do as much grammar checking, I think, as most people might need. Maybe a little something else. This glass, it just doesn't seem to. Yeah, maybe I'll do some of this. Might give a little bit more weight to the liquid there. I just don't like that line. It doesn't read so. Spills casting shadows. All right, that's a little more interesting visually, right? Oh, maybe ice cubes too. Oh, right. Yeah, this should go above here. Yeah, maybe above there. Yeah, layer order can get frustrating too when you're doing coloring, and you want something to show through somewhere and not somewhere else. So sometimes you have to divide your layers to get that to work. Yeah, I don't think I want that on the wall. Let's see. Oh, maybe I do. Yeah, maybe that makes this visually make a little bit more sense. So that my idea was that, yeah, that was a discussion I had with somebody once about the cartoon is, there's no context. There's no, where is this? You just, based on the objects, kind of guessing, oh, this is a kitchen, or this is an office, or this is a bathroom, or whatever. And I like that. I like that aspect of the cartoon a lot. But yeah, there's something odd about that. Something that maybe some people might not like, that contextless situation. And yeah, I just like it because you're focusing on the objects and their interaction, and not so much, oh, look at the window and the carpeting or whatever. All right, enough of that. Okay, so they wondered if they had subverted the trope of being a refreshing beverage. Let me double check. There's not. Oh, yeah. Oh, you. So it's spelled right, but I'm spelling troop. See, there we go. That's just what I was talking about. You can spell something correctly and have the complete wrong word. Trope is O-U-E. So maybe I can even it out a little bit now. The trope. Okay. Sorry. On microphone. So they ordered, oh, they wondered if they had subverted the trope of being a refreshing beverage. Oh, right. Subversion. Hmm. Okay, so let's, so we'll save this and drag a couple of these cups already. Wow. So yeah, I'm curious, yeah, very curious of a lot of people's reaction to that movie, especially people, you know, kind of my similar disposition, similar kind of connection to that. IP. Oh, I still remember. Yeah, IP is such an ugly, impersonal way to talk about a world and characters. The IP. I first stood that I think in terms of game circles. You know, with we have video game circles with licensing. You know, licensing IPs for games. Everything was the IP. This is a fresh IP. This is an old IP. This is a everything referred to as IP. Intellectual property. That seems very sterile and ugly way to talk about, you know, creative works. But I guess when they're bought and sold and licensed and whatever, I guess that's what they become. Kind of an ugly thing. Hmm. Hmm. Not sure. Oops. Too much. Too many cups. Hmm. Let's see here. Yeah, I always like. For some reason, I always like this. You know, the two objects kind of confronting each other, kind of thing. Oh, but I should probably. Maybe I'll just move lines out of the way. I think actually they're up here. Those textures are up here. Those ups. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think I've got this. Yeah, we'll go with the red. The red solo cup. The glass, but give it the white base. And it's going now. I can figure out where I want things to go. Oops. Oh wow, yeah. Paying attention. So white. Well, Oh. Oh, okay. Close this off. All right. I can put white on the. I'm gonna do that white edge. I like that bottom edge. I don't know if they actually have that, but I like that kind. It's like how wide that is. All right, drawing and not talking. Okay, so this is supposed to be, you know, kind of like a plastic, like a red Solo cup. I'll put some reflection there. And now, put something disgusting in this glass. Hmm. They're horrible. Have bits floating around. Hmm. Colorful. Yuck. All right, there we go. I think all of this needs not to. And I've got to highlight some things. That. Mmm. Delicious. I can probably get away with. Not actually doing those lines in black, but yeah, I think that'll work. Well enough. I think everything is bigger. Age a little bit more. Oh, let's All right, bigger and bolder. Okay. Check doing here. Oh, almost an hour. Yeah, so this idea was just going to be about, yeah, rather be empty. So the red plastic solo cup is not going to have anything in it. Although it's not very easy to tell. But then being full of whatever he was full of, the glass full of the strange stuff. Which I might actually off into a different layer. Quite like how that, like it's. Okay, so turn this up and see if I can pull these chunks out. Magic wand. Yeah, so I don't have much as far as the topic of creativity or things today, but I was just full of thoughts after seeing that movie and being so confused by the tensions. Ugh, really terrible. And the thing that that made me think of is how, at least in a pop culture way, and this might extend beyond pop culture into all types of shared culture, but something a little bit more in that water. Yeah, just trying some different blending layers here to make this sense, but I think maybe I can just fade this, then more green will come through it, and it'll appear to be a little bit more in the water. The other way it was looking like it was on the edge of the glass or something, on the outside of the glass. Okay, that'll work. Oh, or just, yeah, instead of doing that, just do this. Yeah, so I'm going to be interacting with other layers I don't want to do that with. Oh, that's pretty. No, not that. Yeah, I think that'll gross enough. Is that gross enough for you? It's just not doing it. Okay. Yeah, we'll just go with that. So the other thought that I had is, yeah, culturally how, and you're seeing this, maybe it's easier to identify, because you have to talk to so many people, because you can see a lot of people's reactions on the internet to things and in comments and kind of the consensus that people have about certain things. But so my first thought was how much like a human centipede this kind of cultural thing is, and we're being handed. So I felt this specifically about how the choices that were made with Last Jedi, that so human centipede, this mad scientist got this idea to keep people alive by linking them mouth to ass surgically, and only feed the first person, and then the food continues down the chain, ass to mouth, to the subsequent people attached. And I think that's what we're dealing with a lot of pop culture and cultural things, I guess in general. And maybe this is an American, maybe this is much more of an American thing, but we're just getting these horribly digested, just so far from the original version of what something was. So a generation digests this idea and then passes it to us, and then we digest this idea even further and then pass it to the next person. And so by the by the time it's done that a few times, it's devoid of any nutrients, any redeeming properties, any qualities that would actually be useful to the person. It just is further and further degraded into nothing. And so I was just feeling that with some of the stories and people are telling. It's just useless. It's just disgusting. And I feel like we're so just the idea that the George Lucas's infatuation maybe with the early 60s in California, Northern California, in his childhood and things, and what he watched, Flash Gordon, and the things that he watched when he was young was his influence, and he passed that to a generation of people that now are passing that to another generation of people. And some of those people affected by his work also became filmmakers, and they got a chance to work on his property, and they're digesting it and passing it along. So it's gross. I mean, I don't think the metaphor holds up all that well, but it's disgusting enough that I think it's fitting that we're just eating this pre-digested garbage and these ideals and thoughts from previous generations and not processing them. There's nothing great in them. I might want to go bigger than that. There's nothing that useful in them, and we just keep eating it, and we're eventually just going to pass it along to the next generation. And it gets easier and easier to see the effects of that, because you can see people in large numbers how they react to certain things, and what they value and what they think is important. And it's just this degraded, strange version of things that have been handed to them. Not good. So that thought popped into my head because this does seem like an over-digested version of Star Wars universe that we were he felt better about being empty, being filled with whatever that was. You feel better about being empty than being filled with whatever, spelled wrong, that was. Yeah, I don't want to. The wording is great. Yes, I think didn't feel better. He preferred with an F. He preferred being empty than being filled with whatever that was. Ours? I don't know. That's yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yay. He preferred being empty than being filled. Oh, maybe instead of then. Preferred being empty. Whatever horrible stuff that was. I like glasses. Judging what's put into them. He preferred being empty than being filled with whatever horrible stuff that was. Much preferred. Much preferred being empty. Oh, two. Much preferred being empty, filled with whatever horrible stuff that was. And I don't think it looks horrible enough. Horrible stuff. Not horrible enough. Is there a way to make it look more horrible? Let's see if lightness and darkness. Not by much. I don't want it to look, I just want it to look murky, not necessarily rendered. Oh, and that's so low, that's why it doesn't have, yeah. Oh, that might work. Oh my. Weird. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Or what I was thinking. Oh yeah, yeah. Overall lightness. Ew. And a little bit more questionable. All right, I think that. He much preferred being empty to being filled with whatever horrible stuff that was. All right, so two wonderful cup jokes. So we have the subverted trope. They wondered if they had subverted the trope of being a refreshing beverage, and he much preferred being empty to being filled with whatever horrible stuff that was. Exactly how I'm feeling. I'd rather not see another Star Wars movie than see that again. Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, thanks for enduring that with me. And yeah, sorry I didn't have anything more interesting to talk about, but I'm just, yeah, very puzzled by that whole experience. It was a funny weekend because, you know, some movies come very delayed to Japan. So I saw the Justice League on Thursday night, and then Sunday night I saw Last Jedi. And Justice League is fine. It's not a great movie, but it's entertaining and, you know, kind of pointless. And it's got a, you know, pointless, lame villain, which all superhero movies seem to be having that problem. I guess because they don't want to spoil their big villains, you know, because they only get kind of one shot at doing a big movie with a big, well-known, all-powerful villain. So they keep, yeah, introducing these weaker, odd mini bosses kind of things. But it was fine. Better than, you know, Batman versus Superman or Man of Steel. It wasn't great. It was fine, and they had nice, you know, there was a nice interaction between the heroes, and I think those heroes, there's something interesting about the DC heroes that they're so deep in our kind of pop culture, you know, kind of shared pop culture, that it's easy to kind of push them in different directions and do different things with them. They've got a lot more flexibility, I think, because we already kind of have their core identity. Like, we already kind of understand that just from all the various ways that we've encountered them from, you know, TV shows and cartoons and comics. And yeah, so there's something pretty strong about that I don't think Marvel has. I think Marvel has Spider-Man, and people still don't quite all understand. They can recognize that character, but they don't know kind of what he's about. and what he's about isn't really all that interesting. But there's something about the DC heroes that works in an interesting way. So they can really make terrible movies and make mistakes, and it's not ruining those characters. Where I think if they made too many bad Marvel movies, you could easily ruin those characters and couldn't really bring them back. You couldn't get an audience to come see a film about them anymore. But yeah, so that was a really funny contradiction to Last Jedi. So they're trying to get you excited about characters and kind of get, oh, the hero, okay, Justice League is going, and if this works really well, then there's going to be another movie, and it's a big, ensemble superhero piece, and Last Jedi just seemed to be like, okay, we're done with this. Let's kind of discourage you from, all of those things that you had, all that stuff you had from, how Star Wars has been in pop culture, things kind of built in to this world and these characters, these things you understand. Forget that. This is totally different. We're doing whatever we want. And felt odd. Yeah, you felt that IP. I think the Star Wars IP is a little more more limited and more fragile than people suspected. There's just not a lot of stories to tell in that world, and not a lot of interesting stories to tell. I mean, how long are you going to have this good guy bad guy chasing each other around thing? And people aren't. I think it's the most questioning any of these characters. This film was the most questioning of the characters. Oh, good or evil? Will this character be turned? Will that character be turned? I think that's it. I think we're pretty much done with that. So that's it. I mean, where else are you going to go? It's just going to be good guys chasing bad guys. Yeah, not so interesting. But yeah, so very funny combination of movie experiences. And so I'm sure you can look forward to an Idle Red Hands podcast about that. So as always, I'll put that link in the description, and you can find that other podcast and those other videos. And yeah, I appreciate you joining me, and yeah, thanks for watching. And everything has been archived, so I think I stopped numbering these. I'm just dating them now. But I'm sure we're up to 10 or so streams, so there should be, and of course they're kind of varying quality. The early episodes, technically things weren't worked out completely well, and there was that wonderful attempt to multi-stream to both Twitch and YouTube at the same time. So there's a real choppy video in there, and there's some dicey sound quality, but yeah, the more recent stuff I think has a more consistent quality. So if you want to go back and put any of that on in the background while you're wrapping your Christmas presents. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and I will be around next week. Wow, so that's going to be the 26th, the day after Christmas, so we can talk about what all happened there. Boy, oh boy. All right, so yeah, I really appreciate joining me, and see you next week. Goodbye.